Honorable Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa, distinguished East African leaders, ladies and gentlemen, our dear youth, good afternoon. It's impossible to create a better world without bettering the lot of women. The world cannot be a better place if women's conditions are not better in it, wrote Tajuddin Abdul Rahim, and may his soul rest in peace. While these words were penned in 2006, they still resonate now despite our country's advances of the past 15 years in granting women equal status, equal opportunities, and equal protection under the law. Perhaps the greatest indicator of how much further our fight must take us is the fact that discussions on female equality are still being held, and justifiably so. And still in view of the cultivation and employment of female potential that must be achieved to reach our 2063 development goals, greater efforts must be invested.
Muhimu tunahitaji kujituma, kujitoa, uadilifu, uaminifu ili kulijenga taifa aminifu. Na hasa vijana mnaposhiriki kwenye matukio mbalimbali ya uzalishaji mali, wale wazee wenye umri wa kati waendelee kuwa na matumaini makubwa na vijana ambao ndio wenyewe hapa.
Today I'm joined by my fellow co-moderator.
My name is Eric and I'll be co-moderating with Diana on this Gender Equality Forum.
Yes.
We are very excited to have you participating here with us and taking part in this engagement.
Actually, we need support because it is not very easy, especially the younger you are, the more difficult it is for you to even get into these places.
Introduce our next speaker, who is Laura Bass. Okay.
Yes.
So Laura, as the Dutch Youth Ambassador for SRHR and Bodily Autonomy, how can we support you by connecting with youth from across Africa to ensure broader outreach and impact?
The best way to help me is to make sure that young people can participate actively in society. My name is Laura Bas, I'm 25 years old and I'm the Youth Ambassador for Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights, Bodily Autonomy and Gender Equality within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In one sentence, my job is to make sure that the voices and needs of young people from all around the world are represented in the policies that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs make.
Do you think climate justice component is strong within the Action Coalition's commitments?
When we talk about, for example, why Africa is going to be hit the hardest by the crisis, we must acknowledge why that is. So this requires us to address legacies of colonialism, imperialism, neoliberal capitalism, and how these manifest and affect our ability as African people to self-determine in these economic global systems that are built on hierarchies and that centers profit over people.
So from your perspective as a young woman, how do you think we can organize ourselves to position young women at the front line for the Action Coalition's agenda?
First and foremost, young women can start by popularizing the commitments that were made during the Generation Equality Forum. If given a chance, young women are definitely able to come up with very innovative ideas that would aid the government in rolling out and advancing the implementation of the commitments in their communities.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of ULEAD Unplugged. I should say welcome to myself as well, because you haven't seen my face here in maybe 3 weeks. My colleague Kazeneza has been taking the lead here and just guiding some very important conversations on peace and security. I hope you guys were also able to be part of that. I was there, but in the background. So welcome back to me and welcome back to you guys. Thank you for joining us, for being on time. We're very excited to be having this conversation. It's Women's Month. So first of all, happy Women's Month, happy Women's History Month. We celebrate each and every woman on here. You can use your little wave tool on Zoom just so I can see how many women are with us today. And I hope we're the majority today. I hope we're the majority today. It's really nice to see you guys. My name is Fiona Kemigesha. Just in case you've never been here, I am the host of You Lead Unplugged. Every single Thursday, we come here and we have conversations about topics that affect us, that affect our communities, our continent, in a hope of just like making a better way forward, in a hope of connecting with each other so that we can have more impact. So thank you once again for joining us. I will ask you first to go into the comment section, let us know your name, where you're watching or listening in from, and what you do. We'd love to connect with you. So please go ahead and do that. Let me just make sure that my guests are with us, that my co-hosts also are with us so that they can manage the back end. Very good. Everybody's here. All right. So we're just going to jump right into it. And today's conversation is about the workplace. I think I should just backtrack a little bit and start with the fact that it being Women's History Month, we wanted to dedicate a couple of episodes of Unplugged for specifically women's issues. I mean, these are things we discuss throughout the year, but in a very special way, we just wanted to spotlight that this month. And today's episode is about the workplace. And the workplace isn't just some office, it's every place where people work, okay? Whether they're working in a marketplace, everywhere, any workplace. We want to talk about how we can create an environment for women to thrive. Now, according to the UN, women are concentrated in lower paid, lower skill work with greater job insecurity and are underrepresented in decision-making roles and fields such as science and technology. So we just want to talk about that, talk about how we can make spaces more inclusive, how we can make spaces safer, okay? Safe is a word that I'm glad we're using a lot more when we talk about safe spaces. Those spaces need to be safe for everybody, okay? Regardless of anything, whether it's gender. Well, in this specific case, we're talking about gender. Okay, so I want to just jump in and let my wonderful guests, the wonderful people that we have joining us today, introduce themselves. We have two ladies. Again, it is Women's Month. Please, guys, don't feel left out. It doesn't mean that you can't contribute to these conversations. You are very important, actually, as well, in these conversations, and we welcome your presence, your contributions. But let me let my guests introduce themselves. So we have with us Sara. Let me let you introduce yourself. Please go ahead. Welcome, Karibu.
Thank you so much, Fiona. And I see you also like going by Kemi, but I know you, Fiona. So hi, Fiona, and hi, co-guest Ange. So my name is Sara Teri, and I am the Programs Director here at MS Training Center for Development Cooperation. We are a training facility, a Pan-African training facility based in Arusha, Tanzania, primarily doing training and learning, professional courses, academic courses, and of course, we're one of the major partners for ULEAD, where the Unplugged series also sits alongside the East Africa community. So for me, it's a pleasure to be here, and I can't wait for the conversations that we have. And I think, just as you're trying to situate us, Fiona, it's a space for interacting and saying, we're just coming here to give some thoughts, but, I think everyone is grappling with this and probably have better ideas or experiences than we do. Thanks. Look forward to the conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sara. Sara is modest. Her CV. Hey, guys, please. But thank you so much for joining us. Ange, I'm hoping are you having some trouble with the video?
Right. Sorry.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, thank you so much, Kemi, and welcome to everyone. I'm very sorry I'm in a very loud place where I would be interrupted at some points, but I think I will manage.
Okay, let's just give Ange a second, but I know she'll be back. Yeah, let's give her a second. I'm sure she'll be back. Ange, are you good? Can you?
Yes, now I'm okay. All right. My name is Ange, like Fiona said. I am AAC Youth Ambassador, and most of all, I'm a young person and very passionate about gender empowerment or women empowerment. And also, I work mainly into sexual and reproductive health back in my country. And I'm also passionate by youth empowerment in general. So I'm very glad to be here. I'm very glad to speak also with my mom, Sarah. I'm very happy to be with you again on the stage. It's the second time for me being on the stage with Sarah. So yeah, I'm very looking forward to the conversation. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Oh, that's so sweet. I just in case you guys were part of the ULEAD Summit last year, these guys shared a stage. Good things happened. Good things happened. But that's a discussion for another day, probably. But let me just say hi to you guys. I see some of you in the comments section. Hello, Damaris, welcome. Oh, you were one of the first people here, actually. Welcome, Feni from Kenya. Halima from Tanzania, Tayona from Zambia. Oh, that's pretty. Elvira from Tanzania, Ibrahim, Ridiwani, as always, Sharon from Uganda, and Mary. Mary as well. There are some of you guys that I see every single week. We really appreciate, by the way, your time. We appreciate you coming to share your thoughts with us and just share this space, because it's for you guys. It doesn't make sense if you guys aren't here with us. So let's just get into the conversation. And guys, please feel free to put up your hand if you have maybe like a question or a contribution. We want to keep it really open. And so you can be able to say what you need to say to us. Or workplaces where women thrive, workplaces where women are safe. And what are those threats? I'd like us to just identify. And we've all been in workspaces in different ways, in different capacities. I think it's great, actually. Also, it was intentional that we have someone really young like Ange, and then someone who is closer to me like Sarah, so that we can talk about these experiences from different angles. So let's just talk about those areas. What are those areas that for you really stand out as areas where it's skewed against women? It's just think that the scales are tilted against women. Let me start with you, Sarah.
Thank you. Yeah, so I mean, this topic I think is quite huge, and we can't even do it a favor in the time that we have. And there's so many dynamics in it. But, one of the places first, as you say, is, let's take a journey of a woman coming into this workspace. And I think you've also qualified that, workspace is not maybe the privilege I sit on where I have an, office space and, it's desk space. It's, quite broad. It's your mama mboga at the street and whatnot. So part of it is also the entry into these spaces. First, I think that's the one thing that's already skewed, because traditionally, women being the breadwinners, the bread earners has not been seen. And regardless of how many years one would think, oh, but I was not born in that era and that sounds very old, we still have that root, going with us, and burden going with us, and legacy going with us, that really at times makes it very difficult for women, girls to enter the space. And then when you do enter, you do find dynamics. So it depends also on where you are. I want to maybe lead something to, let's talk about something around maybe sexual harassment, maybe at the workplace. So you have your mama mboga who maybe, why are you here? And, why are you selling? Why aren't you at home taking care of, the family or whatnot? Why do people feel the need and privilege, or I don't know if it's need or privilege, but to see that this is not a space that she owns, and she has an opportunity also to earn economically like anybody else. But you come in a workplace, a formal workplace, where you find that, unfortunately, the statistics are still not against or for women in terms of where you get into an organization. Most of it, you'll find it's clerical work as opposed to spaces where you have decision-making or power, in leadership or something to that effect. So what happens when you have somebody who is then maybe in a higher role than you, who has maybe some sort of power over you, then there are some dynamics that happen in that space. I mean, it's no secret to say that, many reports people suffer from, or reports saying, women suffer from, favors in order to get that job or to stay within that job. So these are some of the, I think, complexities, and it depends then on also where in that ladder a woman is. Some will be more exposed and more disadvantaged than others. I guess it's a whole holistic approach. What we see on the end as maybe a statistic is actually a whole system, a whole culture that has actually disfavored this girl or woman from the get-go, that then leads to this thing that we can visibly see. You talk also about maybe two more points. You talk about those disadvantages, then you find that depending on the role that the woman will probably hold in the organization or company, or if you're talking about a manufacturer worker who's a maybe man in most cases, then a mama mboga, then the pay is already skewed in places where you have a maybe clerical position where mostly women do in terms of assistants. You find that the pay will never be the same as somebody who's probably the CEO or a manager at some point. So those, I think, are things we need to take into consideration.
Yeah, I think you've brought out that aspect of just like the culture, because it's what influences how we see certain roles. That clerical roles are associated with females. And there are specific things that are associated with men and specific things that are associated with women, which at the end of the day, how women are seen, our power when we walk into an interview as opposed to a male colleague. So the culture and the mindset it's a very deep thing, that's the stuff that we have to gradually keep working on, because you can't break cultures like that. But I think that conversations really help, because those spaces are like that because of cultures. I think it also reminds me that sometimes we talk about, these people are educated and those people are not. But sometimes I've found that that's not necessarily the case. Even in spaces where there are educated people, still the thoughts are the same. It's just more polite. And sometimes we have to call things what they are, and these things actually exist. But let me give Ange also an opportunity to say something. Ange, Ange is like, Ange must, anyway, let me not call out people's ages, because sometimes people don't like being called out, but she's super young, super young, just out here doing big things at her small age. But like in your work experience, what have you seen? What are those areas where you see women are getting the short end on this? Go ahead.
Thank you so much. And Kemi, I have just grown up, and I think my years now have been added up. But of course, I'm very glad and honored. In my words, let me just say that Sara and you really managed to explain that a workplace is not only a woman being in an office or sitting in a certain position in an organization, even on the road, people who are selling water, who are selling the road, those people workplace there, and even the people we live with, our mates, everyone that are making them not thrive in their workplace. So what I've been actually thinking about on what is making women not thrive, Sara mentioned about the sexual harassment, violating someone's dignity or creating an intimidating or humiliating another one. The discrimination that is always based on a sex, it's always called sexual harassment. And any way that you can cause an verbal use or abuse of power or an assault to any person. That's what we call a sexual harassment. And a lot of people are really facing this, and less work has been done or less effort has been put in this figure. So what is it that is causing people not thriving? This is actually women as being perceived as the most victims to this issue, where you find them feeling not really confident according to different factors, where which is actually causing the decreased confidence and also a self-esteem that is being lowered, even not only, and you also have to remember that it is not who are, but also surrounding them. Whenever facing a sexual harassment, it's not only affecting them, but even the people who are there, they're living with anxiety or even a depression, different stuff. Apart from the sexual harassment, but women are also not, the fact that we find it very hard to hear what women think about different opinions or different factors, it's making women's voice not really being heard in different on a certain discussion. Then I don't even understand, why do we find it hard to understand what women think about different stuffs? Because we find that women are not really able yet, they are able, and it has been proven. And again, the bias on agenda, where we think that women cannot be in this certain position, they cannot be in this board of directors, but we think that they can only come as the secretaries or just those lower positions. All those factors are actually affecting women's thriving or achieving greater heights. Thank you, Kemi.
All right, thanks, Ange. You talked a lot about confidence, and it made me think of, I wonder, I think like some of you may be familiar with this, back when Kamala Harris was running for office, and there was a debate where she was interrupted and she said, "Excuse me, I'm speaking." And it became like, a revolution, "Excuse me, I'm speaking." And I think it was a small thing that spoke to so many women who have been in places of influence and have been trying to express themselves and have been interrupted, and not heard. And it's easy for us to keep on, reducing ourselves because we are not being allowed that just that respect. I think that respect to be heard. And so we have to assert ourselves even further. And yet, I don't know, sometimes the world feels, I don't know, I think you guys must feel this. Sometimes the world feels like for women, we always have to be fighting something. Whether it's, even just being confident, is something that can become a weapon for other people against you. But I hope that if you take nothing away from today, just to speak up, because the way the world is designed, I mean, if we're going to create better spaces for our children, I think, we have to be those types of people. We have to be able to speak up. Speaking up doesn't mean being mean or angry. It just means taking up your space. I saw a hand up and I wanted to give that person an opportunity to say something, but I think it's down again. But again, guys, this is a really open space, so please do feel free to put up your hand. And then as the conversation goes on, I'll, create opportunities for you to say what you need to say, but you can just keep your hand up and then we'll proceed. Okay. All right. I'm going to assume everyone is good on that one. And again, the comment section is also open. If you prefer leaving your comments there, please feel free and I will read them out as well. I see a couple of more people have joined in. Thank you so much, guys, and welcome to the conversation. So we've just been, just in case you've just joined us, we've just been talking about those areas of workplace life where women are getting the shorter end of the stick. And now I just want us to discuss the culture, which is something that Sara also already talked about a little bit. We as the community have such a big role to play in how our workplaces look, because we are the same people creating these jobs. We are the same people working in these places. We are. So how do we, the community, create cultures? How do we build cultures that allow women to thrive in a workplace? Allow her to feel safe, allow her to have her voice heard, allow her to take up places of management, of, to really be their best selves is what we're saying. So how do we as the community work towards that? Let me see. Okay, I see someone's hand up. Let me give someone an opportunity also to say something. Sophia, I see your hand is up. Please go ahead. You can put on your camera or your audio, whichever you're comfortable with, and go ahead.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Sophie Nasaka. I'm from Uganda. I'm just from jogging, so I'm unable to put on my video. Maybe next time the better. Well, I thank you guys for this opportunity once again. It's a very great initiative. Someone talked about mindset and culture as well. I would start with mindset. We women, especially the girls, have a challenge of having a very negative mindset about, we look at things and we feel we can't go beyond the way we are seeing these things. Like we can't see further than maybe our nose or something. But I could give you an example of myself. I'm 25. I am currently the district female workers councillor, Kasese district. It was really shocking to most of the people. Like, hey, this girl is very young at 25, 24. You're contesting for such a position. And I was contesting against a woman that was around, I think, 55 age. So looking at this person contesting with the opponent having twice their age was really shocking. But to me, I've always believed as a young girl that we can achieve all that we think we could achieve. You could get all that you wish you can get. So I have had friends. I studied from Makerere University Business School. I have had friends who I tell, and someone is like, hey, Sophia, I'm looking for a job and what. I'm like, you know what? Why don't you try this? Just get into an office. When I was, I think around senior 6 vacation, I moved into a place, an office. It was Kasese Airlines. It's an airfield, something like that. And the gentleman was really shocked and impressed at the same time. This young girl could come into office. I was like, you guys, I'm very sorry. I don't know if I'm maybe trespassing or what, but I really need an opportunity to help around as I wait for campus. It was really shocking, but these guys became my friends. They started encouraging me. Up to now, we are still friends. So I really feel we as women are not believing in ourselves. We are having this mindset. I call it a backward mindset. I feel we could do all that we think we can. And trust me, people are believing in us, but we are not believing in us. Immediately after my university at MUBS, I got a job as, and I went as an assistant head marketing, Uganda Aviation Academy. It's an aviation academy here in Uganda. And people are like, how are you doing it? But I believe if I'm doing the right thing, I'm honest, I'm exercising integrity, I mean, I'm on the right path. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. If I do not know something, I do not know it, I research about it, I engage in other people. And I'm sorry to bring in this bit of religion. You look at, I'm a Muslim, but you look at these young Muslim women thinking that we are always behind, like a woman is supposed to be behind, so we are not supposed to like thrive and move up. It keeps us as women backward. People are believing in us, but we are not believing in ourselves. Up to now, everyone is shocked how a 24, 25-year-old girl becomes a district workers councillor who even does not pay any money in NSSF for Christ's sake. So I think we have to get to communities. I believe in empowerment as a young girl. If there would be any opportunity of going around and empowering these young girls, because it all starts with the young people, empowering them to believe in them and to believe that they can. then that would be a very good
Sure.
thing.
Okay, thank you so much, Sophia, for sharing that. I think stories like yours are always a great place, a great thing to have for all of us, by the way. Even some of us who are older, stories like that inspire. You know, stories like that remind us why we should continue to be unafraid to take up the spaces that we can in this world. Don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, I see your hands up. So I'm just going to keep creating pockets of space there for you to speak up. So please keep your hands up. But I'm just going to go to the next. Okay, I think, okay, our other guest is still with us. She's just having a bit of a connectivity issue, but she'll be back. But in the meantime, yeah, I was just talking about culture and what we as a community can do to work on those mindsets. And I think also Sophia has talked a little bit about that we are often reducing ourselves. Women, we tend to reduce ourselves to not be, to be uncomfortable taking up those spaces, which is understandable. A lot of us have grown up in very patriarchal spaces. And I think it has caused that, but now we are trying to detach. But let me go to Sara. What do you think the community could be doing better? Just the regular people, you and me, us, how can we make our workspaces just more conducive, our environments more conducive for women in that culture aspect?
Absolutely. And maybe just with also what Sophie is saying, and Sophie, a pleasure to hear your story and thank you for sharing. But also maybe for me to you is maybe then a call of action, which I think you're also doing anyways, but to say that, you've taken up the space, hold that space then for other ladies who are coming, up the ladder. And I think it's very important. One thing I don't want to underestimate or undervalue is what Fiona was just talking about now, Kemi, in terms of, where all this is rooted and based. It's about a history of, legacy around culture, orientations, societal orientations, which are, working against the woman. So, again, coming to the community, using an example, I'm a firm believer that a lot of this change has to take root in or from the household, the family level. When we're talking about how do the adults in that space, maybe if we talk about a single unit, the family, how are they relating, man and woman, father, mother, whatever it is that are the maybe first example for this being that's coming, into this world. How we're talking to each other, how we're respecting each other, what space do I have in terms of decision making as a partner, as a wife, as a woman in that, what decision making in terms of raising my children, what is my partner doing in terms of my husband, in terms of, thriving economically together, is that all on him and then, give me something when I ask, or is that a conducive environment where we can each support each other to raise our kids? You believe in that, but also how we raise our children. I'm a mother of 3 boys, and I'm very conscious about how I raise them, because I know I also carry, as Sara, biases, despite my maybe exposure, despite my education. And I say I come from a space of privilege, and I'm very grateful and humbled with that. But I also carry a lot of legacy and culture. And there are things, for those who are from Tanzania, I'm somebody from Kilimanjaro, Mechaga. I think we know what that means, the space I occupy as a woman, maybe at times. So I carry that, and then I'm bringing it to these sons who I'm now raising to be, young men and gentlemen and somebody's partner. So what messaging am I doing? How am I relating to my husband in order to teach my children how also a woman should be treated? And how's my husband relating to me to teach them how a woman should be related to? When we talk about, I think Ange brought this very well, in terms of, let's not stop at this, mom, dad, whatever. And some have not even grown in that kind of state, right? But maybe if we stretch it a bit, when you're talking about we call them house managers these days, the ladies or gentlemen who help you around your home, how are you relating with them? I think that's a very conscious thing that then somehow, somewhere, your child is also reflecting. When we talk about equality, when we talk about equality, it cuts across. So it's not only around the gender lines, but it cuts across in terms of socioeconomic strata, you name it. And then I think, how your particular children are oriented in that. I'm also a firm believer that that depending, and I think I don't have exact statistics, but I think somebody has done this study. Children don't need a lot. They just need to feel safe, loved, wanted and needed. And you find that they grow up to be confident citizens. Now, so I think what we say in there's that saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Really it does, but it's very conscious. It's about then undoing some of these things. It's practical things like, okay, what are the what are we giving people access to? The other day met with a lady who was married off at 12. If you're married off at 12, I mean, really, what are you expecting from this young girl? Because she's a girl at that point. So what are you expecting of her at that age? And then to say we're thriving to be at a certain stage. So are we also giving, in terms of chores, practical things that we can do as, parents? For me, the household is a space. But then there's something also around, and I'm taking again just where I come from in terms of this, we're still attached, and I don't know if it's the same, but I'm assuming it's most likely the same for people. There's the nuclear family, and then you have these other spaces, which also bleed into how our laws are set, what is acceptable, things around, land rights. You find we don't have that, but a father or a brother or somebody could make a very definite decision and say, you know what, if I have girls in my family, they're going to enjoy these same privileges. So I think it's such conscious things, but first we also need to understand it is so ingrained. We should not underestimate that. In my privilege and power, I think I have to check myself many a times, because I believe based on that, I also carry some of this, regardless of also being involved in work and consciously ensuring that I'm breaking some of those spaces. So I think another thing is at also individual level, understanding the bias you already carry subconsciously and working on it on your own as well.
Oh, wow. There's so many things there that I just want to dive into, but I want to let other people also say something. But there's really something to be said about being aware of yourself and your own biases that are based on your own experiences, things we carry subconsciously and then effect. And then those are the things that our kids or our, the younger people around us are seeing, and then we carry these things forward. So self-awareness is so key, because what I'm hearing you saying also is that it's a constant decision. It doesn't just happen one day. Every day you decide, I am going to do X better, or this is not okay. This is going to impact these people in this way. How can I do it better? There was a hand that came up first, but now I don't see it anymore. Did they give her? Okay, let me just check. Oh, her hand is not up anymore. All right, so I see a hand up from Feni. Feni, you can go ahead, put on your audio or your video, whatever you're comfortable with, and go ahead.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Feni Ogembo. I'm from Kenya. I'm so excited with the discussion. I love what the previous speaker had just spoken about, which is a very basic unit that we don't really take much concentration about, because those are some of the values that we grow up with and end up to become productive people in the society. So if it does not start from a home setup, then automatically when I become an older person, what I learned when I was young, if I never had the right values, then that's exactly what I will exhibit even in my workspace. And just to add on what Sophie said concerning the young girls and women, of which are from the ages of, according to the Kenyan system, 18 all the way to 24. So I would urge in all our spaces, let us have young girls and women to tell their own stories, to speak about their challenges, because they're the women who are going to be in leadership in the next year. They're the women who are going to run the country the next year. But if they're not involved in the policy body making spaces, then we are not having the right people to articulate the issues of those who are affecting our minors. We have I love the way Sophie has put it. She's 25, and when she stands in other platforms, people are wondering, how did you make it? Of which that should be the right channel, because if we have more or 30 or 50 people like Sophie in those spaces, then we'll be having the right people articulating some of the, even challenging the negative social norms that you're having in our society. One thing that we do, I am a representative of She Leads. It's a project in Kenya for amplifying the voices of young women and girls. So what we do in our communities to challenge some of the social norms is that we have dialogues in the community with different people, because our communities have different people, and these are the people that we talk to every single day. They're the people we greet every day, and the people who we also have in our workspaces. So it will be very impactful if we have them, and then talk to them and tell them, this is how our community is, and this is how we should run the community. But what do you think are some of the challenges that do affect us as a whole community? Just to find the elderly person in the community, to find someone who is in the space of the shopkeeper, where you go buy your clothes, just to have dialogues with them and ask them, what do you think about women in leadership, and also try to bring young men and boys on board, not because they are boys, but we bring them on board because they are already having an upper hand in decision making. So we're just trying to harmonize the whole situation, and for them to get to understand, it's not just we are singing about girl child, but there's a main reason why we are saying the young women and girls should be involved in this decision-making policy spaces. So that's all I had. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Feni, for sharing that with us. Guys, it's one of those things where if I get into it, but thank you so much for sharing. I think it's also great that you even brought up I think just building up from also what Sara was saying about how we are raising young boys. And I think even because kids spend so much time in school, how are we educating them? Our school spaces where they're being shown certain things, just like basic everyday, how are they teaching them to relate with girls, and how are they teaching girls to relate with boys? Because those things are so, growing up is so nuanced, and it really sets us up for where we are now. It sets us up to be in boardrooms and be timid to speak, and let men speak and be afraid to make our own voices heard. And just like that culture, I see Ange's back. Welcome back. Sorry, I know internet in Africa generally as a whole, it can be a bit of a joke. I know, even we have those issues. So Angie's back. Let me also let you just weigh in. We're talking about culture. We as a community, what we can do to make our spaces more encouraging, more inclusive, more just spaces where women can absolutely be. So let me just let you share something, your thoughts on that. Oh, and please, guys, don't put down your hands. I'll give you an opportunity to speak so you can keep them up. Ange?
Thank you so much, Fiona, and everyone who has been actually giving their ideas or opinions on the topic. The most encouraging part of the culture is to see your fellow woman also putting you down. The person that you were expecting to face the same challenge, that you will hope to find them looking for the same solution you're looking for, being the same person to put you down. That's the most, I don't know how to say it. I was looking for a challenge that is trending on Twitter or any other social media of breaking the bias, where you meet someone and then someone maybe tells you, I ran into the CEO, and then he was like, how was he? Why don't you think that it was she? Why don't you think that it was that culture that we have to always feel like it has to be a man, it has to be a male gender, not a female gender? That's actually what we need to break first of all. So the stereotypes are really something that we are facing. We are always having a challenge to see how we can break them. But what needs to be done, it is me and you, my fellow woman, to do it, because not everyone understands how it is, like us who are facing the same challenges. It is us who are also to speak out and also to take action towards the change that we need to see. Also, let me also address this challenge that we always also face into our workspace. Sometimes women, when they are excelling or when they are making great things, and then you find it as they're being too much, or you have to, like, you are like, please, first of all, slow down and first do this, like get married or do this special thing before you do the other thing, or excelling in what you're doing. Remember that, there is, I followed your video where people used to tell you that the clock is ticking, then you first have to do this because this is the priority rather than what you're doing. So it's really discouraging, and it's always based in the culture. Why do people have to always see they have the culture priorities before they excel in what they're doing? So it's really challenging, and it's something that we as women have to deal with and also call out. Even the largest community, we understand it better. That's why I'm actually addressing women to take action towards it, but also the male, they have to do something about it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It touched something that I know we can all relate to, those stereotypes that we have to be this and we have to be that, and this is the mold. And let me just shout out all my 30 and overs. I don't know how many you are here. You get to 30 and there's so many expectations of what you should be by that time and what your life should look like. Man, I hope you guys are able to write your own stories. People are going to tell you what you need to be, but I hope that we are able to write our own stories. There's Ayan, your hand was up earlier. Please go ahead, Ayan, and share something. You can put on your camera, your audio, and go ahead.
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, women can take participation anything for like cultural activity and political influence. Like for example, I'm Muslim and I have different culture in our country, but I can do anything about this political participation and culture activity. Also, if women have strong ball and strong pillar, also she have very passionate, very strong. She can do anything. Woman, she can't doing anything bad about political culture. She can do anything. She work in her activity. She have dreams, but some problem also will be faced. Like first time, if you expression so many people, if you fear, you have dreams, but how can I achieve? Also social also influencing sometimes for women dreams. There's some people telling how women can do this and that and all, but women can do anything. But first step, she have to slowly to do her dreams come true. That's my first time I participating here. Thank you, ma'am, so much.
Thank you so much, Ayan. We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing. I love that you kept saying women can do anything. I think it's a message that will never get old. It will never get old. We have to keep reminding each other of that, because I think sometimes we forget. We forget that we can absolutely take up any space that we...
Today, Kamala Harris, she's Vice President of America. Also, she have child. But her expression of her dreams, she can achieve anything. Yes.
Absolutely. And those are the women who are going to keep inspiring us to become them also. Let's become that for the next generation. So thank you so much. I'm just going to move on to the next question. Again, guys, please keep your hands up. I will make some, pockets of time for everyone to say a little something. The next thing I wanted us to talk about with our guests is, we've talked about some of the things that the community can do, some of the things that we should be doing in our own spaces to influence our cultures to be more accepting and inclusive. And I want to talk about our employers, the people that actually employ people. You know, how can employers, how can organizations, how can anybody who has women and men working under them, how can they create an environment where we can acknowledge and nurture women's talent and ensure their safety? You know, what things, I mean, especially because, I mean, there's so many women here, what are those things that we feel should be done better? And maybe you're an employer yourself. Maybe you can also put up your hand and share with us, what things are you doing in your workspace? Maybe someone else can learn from you. You know, what things are you doing in your workspace to nurture women's talents, to ensure their safety? Let me start with Sara on this one. Go ahead, Sara.
Thanks, Kemi. I am an employer by virtue of this. So like noted, I said I'm a programs director here at TCDC, and the structure is that we have an executive director and then an operations director and myself, and part of that we form the leadership team. So I am center at the structure of MS-TCDC, and you know, come across these things. So I'm also glad about this question that comes. And to say is that I think it's, again, I want to impress that no matter how well some of these, you know, processes and systems and policies could be, at the end of the day, there's the individual. And I think we really need to pay attention to the individual, the persona, the things, the weight they bring into some of these elements. So, I mean, that's on the side note, but I think we should never forget that, because if we put it at that individual level, I believe there's also agency to reflect, you know, to look at things and say, okay, I can change, you know, for somebody to be like, okay, I've shifted from this space to that space. And it's a very personal journey. It requires, you know, some sort of self-awareness. It requires engaging, you know, at really aggressive rate, and then being able to sit in these places. But I think one of the things that, you know, practically, and I'll use the example of MS-TCDC to say that, you know, so we have been in Tanzania for 50 plus years. We have been working in the academia, you could say learning environment, and we are part of a, you know, larger kind of federation, which is called ActionAid. Now, we're very cognizant that you know, there's something around us as staff, and then us as interacting also with externals and people who come here. So 2 years ago, we were quite purposeful around saying, okay, could we form a gender equality and feminist leadership working committee, which came to TCDC to support us alongside some of our staff members to do a gender audit. And we're like, we're going to put ourselves out there. We're going to find out what are, you know, some of the gaps we have, and then how can we address some of those gaps. And in that gender, you know, audit, we looked at systems, we looked at processes, we looked at policies, we looked at structure, we looked at infrastructure, because we have a whole facility. Like, how inclusive are we? And not only looking at the male-female lens, but totality, like, you know, as a learning institution, I think we also have to be an example in terms of, you know, thinking through some of these things, because again, it's here where we nurture people. So you found that, you know, some of the areas we were doing so well, and then some were not doing so well. And, you know, it required for some of the recommendations to be like, okay, let's institute a committee made up of staff and service providers here to be able to look at some of these recommendations, to be able to work on them, to be able to then do, like, you know, how do we get feedback mechanism from staff? One of the things we you know, came across was, especially now this around, you know, addressing how do we interact, let's say, with ladies. We had a practical thing, like in our bathrooms, there's nowhere to have a handbag, you know, to put, what if a woman goes with a handbag? And that was okay. We hadn't really thought of that, but, you know, that came out of the audit. So how do we then become very responsive? But also going back to the initial topic you spoke about around sexual harassment, understanding, you know, there's any sort of imbalance that happens at any stage of an organization, then saying, okay, how do we create a safe forum for people to be able to come and speak? Of course, with the leadership team, it's a very purposeful open door policy, anytime come through the committee, making it a bit diverse, because we're also an international organization, to ensure we have representation on that, so people can, feel free to come through and, speak to some of the issues maybe that they find that are gaps within our organization, and then committing to saying, okay, we'll do annual reviews and ensure that we go about it. So that was the gender audit. But we also have the pleasure of being part of a very beautiful, I think, organization in terms of, we have what we call feminist leadership principles. And I think these are also some of, values and principles that guide us in terms of how do we look at this idea or ideas around equality and inclusivity in its totality, and not to discriminate, not to put anyone down, but to say we're coming from a very empowered place. We're understanding the individual, we're understanding the dynamics that surround this individual and how they interact, and then how do they use their own agency to affect what's happening, which will eventually also affect the work that they do. So, you have some of those principles, like self-awareness. Like, if you don't have a self-aware workforce, that's obviously going to not work again for you. Talk about self-care and things to that effect. But then also the practical elements at the workplace in terms of, okay, the workforce right now, we are over 50% women at TCDC, but also ensuring where are also those women positioned, like I said, not in places where I think it was the previous caller, the one before, talking about in decision-making places. So it's not just about having so many women in your organization, but where they sit and where can they influence and how the organization is going. So I think those are practical things that organizations can do, but also I think cream of cream is also the political will in terms of then saying, okay, the leadership here is trying to create that conducive environment. Somebody spoke, and I don't know how well, but I want to celebrate her. Our president, Samia Suluhu Hassan, like, you have to be very purposeful and make some changes that, people will not maybe understand or appreciate, but it will start from there, and then we'll get to discuss this later. But I think those are some of the heavy decisions that need to be made. So if I look at our president, Samia Suluhu Hassan, I think she's making very concrete decisions around how to manage her workplace, which is the, whole apparatus and government of Tanzania, and then, looking at that. So thanks.
Wow. Thank you so much. I feel like there's a lot to be learned there, that you shared some very important things. I think the aspect of that an organization can, like you said, like a gender audit, or even an audit as far as inclusivity as a whole goes, is, I don't even think it's a concept that I've really considered that much myself, because I'm not an employer myself and I haven't thought of, managing people. I haven't had to manage people on that scale before, but that's so important. And I think it still takes us back to assessing self, assess self and then assess the organization from the inside is so important. And I think that's, it shows, because as a person who works somewhere in the, in the outer inner areas of the whole organization, I feel that inclusivity, I feel that freedom to say what I need to say and have and be listened to, and be encouraged and have my ideas become something. And I think that spaces like that are very few. Having worked for a while myself, I can definitely say, at least for me, the opportunities I've had, they're to be honest, only 2 places I've ever worked that have given me that kind of space where I can really just thrive. I can grow, I can blossom. And I know that that's something that a lot of us have experienced in one way or the other. But let me get into some of the comments. I have not forgotten you, my comment section people. Charles, I see you. Okay, Charles says, as society, our culture is what we make it. If culture is a way of life, then society dictates culture, not the other way around. 100%, 100%. We need to have a culture of more women in decision-making positions, be it government sector, be it private sector or government. We need to acknowledge that yes, our past has disadvantaged women, but more importantly, we need to start changing that. Let us have radical policies that have more women in employment, business, and politics that then becomes our culture. Charles, put that on a t-shirt. Put it on a t-shirt because we love it. That's the message. That is it. I do see quite a number of hands up as well. Tayona, this is your moment. Please go ahead and share.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Tayona. I'm joining in from Zambia, but I'm from Zimbabwe. So my first day at the University of Zimbabwe, as a freshman, I got there and there was well manicured lawn. You know, it was green, well manicured, and nobody needed to tell you that don't walk on the lawn. You just figured it on your own that I don't think the culture here allows me to walk on the lawn. And my second story is when I arrived at TCDC. You get into the dining hall and you observe. You are used to that when you eat, you leave your plates on the table. But then after a couple of days, you quickly realize that no, they don't do that here. Here, after you finish eating, you pick up your plate and you go and you put it where it's supposed to be. So it was a culture that was set, that was there. And when we set that type of culture, when people come in, they automatically embrace that culture. Nobody needs to tell them what they need to do. So a lot of times, in order for us to be able to create a workplace that allows women to thrive, we need to look at how we deliberately ensure that the culture allows that to happen. And this starts right from recruitment. How are we recruiting people and what is the culture that we're setting when we're recruiting people? And when announcing the recruitment or when announcing, the appointment, how are we announcing it? Very often at times I notice that, when there's an announcement that we now have a new board or we now have a new director. And if it's female, the first reaction, oh, she is beautiful. But if it's male, you don't get that reaction that, oh, she is handsome. So what is that? That is our unconscious gender bias. So I like what Sarah said that, they really had to go through a deliberate process to address the unconscious gender bias. And it is that unconscious gender bias that infuses into the institution and that creates a hostile working environment for women because it is not addressed. When we were building the global platform in Tanzania, me and Collins Odiambo, we deliberately decided to set a culture that we say, we don't do that here. So whenever people say jokes that border on sexual harassment, the only simple reaction we would give to both people is that we don't do that here, until it became a culture that anybody who says that we don't do that here. And people realize that there is a culture of zero tolerance to sexual harassment in this place. And my last story is when my wife was interviewing people for a job, there were a lot of men on the panel, and she was the only female. And they'd interviewed a couple of men, then came in a woman, and upon realizing that she's married, the men in the room then asked, so what will your husband say when you're moved to the next town? And immediately my wife said, you don't have to answer that. And at the end of the interview, the lady reached out to me and said that was the most empowering moment of the interview. Then I realized, that there was somebody who would speak on my behalf and who create a conducive working environment. So in order also to create a culture that is thriving for women, we also need to call bad behavior in the moment. There is never a good time to call out bad behavior. Call it in the moment, call it as it happens. Asante sana.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for sharing with us. I feel like we must have all gotten some goosebumps. So maybe it was just me, just that story of the interview. Man, I know I've heard that story in different versions so many times. And it's so wonderful when there are those times, those types of moments where someone stands up for you, someone says, no, that's not okay, we are not going in that direction, that this space is not going to be like that. We are not going to allow this to be a space where women cannot be, where everything they do is determined by their marital status, or, how beautiful they are, or, all of these other factors that are outside who she actually is and what she's bringing to the table. So thank you so much for that. There's a question that I've seen here that in the comments from Karuana Mwai, about self-confidence. How do you build self-confidence as a woman, be able to speak up and take up these positions that you believe you qualify for? Could you please address this anxiety? I want to address this actually to a younger woman, to Ange. Ange is a very confident young lady, and she's someone who also openly talks about like mental health, because anxiety is a mental health issue and something that I feel like we should no longer, be afraid to talk about. So Ange, hopefully if your connection is still there, if you're still with us, could you just share something with this lady who is asking about confidence and addressing the anxiety of being able to take up space? Ange, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you so much, Kemi, and the person who asked the question. First of all, before I go right to the question, I would also have to add, but not also speak what they already said, Sara and Tayoma. They spoke about what it has to change of mindset and also infrastructure. I would love to have a workplace where if I give birth, I will also have a room for me to go and do lactation. That's very inclusive, and every woman fears to come with a baby and also increase the productivity of the company, or make that there is an increase of turnover, because infrastructure is not friendly and it is not inclusive. Those are the things that we do not speak about, but we hide behind them, and they have to be done. They have to be worked on. It's something that we need to work on. And also, I would love to go into a washroom if I am in my period, and then find a pad or find any hygiene product there. It's so easy, but it's so ignored, and people are not really doing as much as it has to be. Yes, we have to appreciate that there is something that has been done already, but again, there are still rooms for improvement. Let's be intolerant, like Tayoma said, let's be intolerant to something that is limiting women. Again, I would love to be in a company or in an organization where the policy are clear, where we have people to report to on a sexual harassment, things that happened, or even easy way of communicating the harassment consequences, even the factors that led us to the harassment. And the place where there is an investigation process that is clear in a workplace. Because if I am reporting and nothing is really being done, again, I don't think there would be any reason for me to report. An investigation process that is clear and that is so reinforced, I would love to be in such kind of a place. So on a question of being confident and how to fight the anxiety, it's really something that is really limiting women to thrive. And I find it alarming, since even the numbers have been striking every now and then on how women are so anxious, because if you try to look into the root cause of that, it has some causes which has been maybe a harassment that happened to one woman in a workplace. And then if I see it, I'm also not confident to do what a fellow woman did, because I'm afraid maybe the same consequences will reach out to me. And I'm also anxious because if I try to speak out, if I try to make my voice heard, that it's not going to be implemented the way I wanted it to be. So sometimes women are holding back because they don't think their ideas are going to be heard enough, or also being taken into considerations. So how to fight that confidently? I would like to share with women not to hold back, because first of all, we have to believe in ourselves, because we are able. Like they say, this is going to be a sentence for decades or even years. It's something that we have to know, and it's true. We are able. Women are able. So then if you are not contributing yourself, then you are the one who is lowering the development development that we need to see. So kindly, if you are a woman, that to fight the confidence doesn't take anything. It has to start within you. You have to be that, to have that encouragement, being positive to yourself. Then the rest will come as an addition, if I can say. So the anxiety, the way it has to go, it's better you speak out. You'd find someone to talk to. Sometimes there are issues we don't talk to the close friends. We just would like to speak out. It's better you go on. If it is going on a larger stage or on an app, just look for a therapist, or even talk to someone who is a stranger to you, the person you know that even after that, I'm not going to meet you. Even if I meet you, it's me who is healing. I am healing inside me. So the anxiety goes into speaking out, or just break the silence. Make sure that you share your opinions openly. That's how you actually that's how you step out, and then you succeed or thrive in that kind of a way. So that's what I can share on the anxiety and confidence. Let's not just sit back and then look things being done towards us. Let's just also contribute. Let's give our effort towards the change that we need to see. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Kemi, in fear of sounding very controversial, one thing I think I want also to tell Mwai is that I think, again, and for me, like this, I love this discussion because it really, we need to always continue having them, and we also need not to be apologetic about it, and also understand really how programmed we are at subconscious level to even get that anxiety. So I'm just trying to imagine, I don't know you why, but I'm just trying to imagine, what that story could be to lead up to somebody, a woman not feeling, confident to apply for a position. But one thing I want to say in terms of confidence and at risk of sounding very controversial, I do not know the statistics, but I could Google them after this, and we could Google them. But you do find when in application processes, when people apply, whether it's in terms of how many men will feel they or are actually qualified but will anyways, or not qualified but will anyways apply for that job, because that is the privilege they've been given. Because who's going to say no? Because you're the breadwinner, because you need to be out there and hunt and gather. That is the narrative for decades of years. So the anxiety, without knowing you why, probably comes from that, is this my space? Why not? And we really need to do the work for ourselves, for our communities, in our workplaces, to say no. So put that CV, even with 30% of the qualifications or 10%, because I don't know, I usually like to observe at times when you have a woman in leadership, this is when the questions begin. I mean, you have fringe things that you have to prove that no man will have to have proven, like, how maybe intelligent you are, or how articulate you are, maybe that's not a good example, or how, what else you're bringing to the table, of which at no point would you attach that to a man leading a position. So again, I just want to, and not to make this space very political, but I just want to, look at many presidents, maybe a past, or, leaders that we see and we know. Most of the time, men will not be questioned. They own that space. It seems that they are confident and they'll run it. But as soon as a woman occupies that space, that's when the questions will come around qualification, around how, much experience you have, around, how you're balancing this with, taking care of, the family, which naturally also falls on us. So I think those are some of the subconscious things that we really need to appreciate and not dismiss. I'm hoping, for me, my hope is that it will not take many generations for us to get to a Ange. We see Ange now, and I hope we can, plug and play, like we're saying, maybe in the digital world. Already, maybe our friends are out there. Africa then doesn't need to suffer with that. So I'm hoping there's somewhere we can unplug ourselves and say, no, I've seen a confident woman, she's going to do it. I'm going to ask her, or I'm going to follow this, and I'm going to follow it unapologetically. So but not also to underplay that all these things do exist. So yes, if there's an actual anxiety of repercussions, there's a lot that happens when you're aggressive. Then you have your HR office leaning very heavily on you at times, on other, maybe aspects that, will make that environment unkind or unfriendly for you. Then I think we take that in. But I just want to say at times, when we need to put that foot down, it's because of a legacy and a generation of things that have worked against us as a society and have been passed on to us. And we need to constantly always be fighting consciously. And maybe it's not for you, maybe do it for the next generation. Create that space.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I hope the young lady. Just a moment, please. We have some hands up, so kindly do not speak until I give you the opportunity to do so, just so we can maintain a bit of order and I can give an opportunity to the people who've had their hands up before. But thank you, Sarah, and I hope that the young lady who sent that feels encouraged and feels seen, because trust me, so many of us see you and we've been there. Okay, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have been there in that space of anxiety and not being sure if you are the right person for the thing. But guess what? You really are, and it's a gradual process as well. It may not happen tomorrow, but it's a gradual process. And if you're intentional, you can absolutely do so many things. Okay, so there are a couple of people with their hands up. I'm going to give it 30 seconds. Yeah, and I'm actually going to time so that everyone can have a chance, hopefully, because we are a bit out of our time. But okay, let me go ahead. Maneno Stella. Yeah, your 30 seconds starts now.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Stella from South Sudan, and it's a great pleasure to be a part of this great discussion. And actually, when you look at South Sudan, I think it's not a good space and it's not a good place for women, if I may say, because you find a lot of things keep happening. Issues of forced marriages, common rape is happening, armed conflict-related violences are taking place where you find someone is being slaughtered and all that. So it's not really a good place. And I am also so glad that I work with young people, young girls, young boys, as a social worker, that I do case management and all that. So there's many issues in the community that really affect the young girls, or the culture itself that affect the young girls. We are seen as source of wealth to the families. If you're told your bride price is paid higher, people even come and compete. So the highest bidder takes the lady. Sometimes you get married to someone who is not of your choice, and everything goes bad. Even when you're married, you're not happy in that marriage, and things go bad, violences happen and all that. So it's not really a good place, but such discussions are good. We as women, we need to speak up. Like for us as an organization, I work for Crown the Woman. So we have taken it up to come up with the campaigns that speak to the leaders, that speak to the community leaders, to the young women and even the men themselves, that Mara Circuit, like it's not just a woman, because we have this word that moves, that you're just a woman. But we said it is not just a woman, but a woman can do what a man can do. So we try to engage the community and talk a lot about how women can be also equal, how women are equal to men, how women have potentials and the capacity to do what men can do. So the only thing, they need to be given the space to also practice the skills they have. And also currently we also do something that we engage men, that is IMAP. We use that approach to engage men.
I'm so sorry to cut you off. I just want to try and make sure that we all have an opportunity to say something. So maybe if you can just wind up in the next few seconds, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. I was saying we also have an approach called IMAP, where we engage young men to be the ambassadors to talk about the gender-based violence, because we know, we believe that even if we train a woman and we empower them, but if they go back and stay with the same perpetrator, the perpetrator may not know that what they are doing is actually against the right of the person. So we have just changed the trend about to engage more of men than women, because we believe if we change their mindset and the narrative, then the community will be a better place for us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stella. That was powerful, and I'm glad that there's so many women who are doing work in their communities to change the narrative. Okay, next is Judy Lumumba. Go ahead, Judy. Please keep it short as possible.
I will. Thank you so much, Kemi, and other speakers. To me, one thing I would like to, and it's a challenge and to talk about, is about the pay, about payment or the salaries increment, increasement, and also the pay bar compared to women and men in a workplace. Second is about the policies and regulation on work ethics. You'll find that this affects a lot of women. Maybe you're working till mid-late, they know very well maybe you're married, they know very well maybe you are out of your maternity leave for 3 months, and this is also something that we need to address. The last thing is, the two last things is funding women projects and funding women workplaces, and this goes to casual laborers. We're forgetting about the office women, but we're looking at the women at the rural areas, women from marginalized refugees in our countries who are working. These also need to be something that need to be highlighted. And my last thing is advocacy. We need to advocate the kind of work security or work allowance. We need to advocate for work policies, and from the government down to a peasant farmer. We need to advocate for the 50-50% work employment, and this is a challenge to us as in my country. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you for the platform.
Thank you so much, Judy. In the interest of time, let me just go straight ahead to Nicholas. Nicholas, kindly keep it short. Please go ahead.
I apologize for not raising my hand in the beginning. That's how we are in most of the programs. So, as I was saying, allow me to respond to Moi, I believe so. That's her name. In order for a lady to lead, first of all, you cannot lead others without identifying yourself. You need to identify and lead yourself. Identify yourself from within and construct yourself so that you'll be in a position to lead others and know where you want to take other people. You should be after a cause that is bigger than you. You should be chasing something that is not only benefiting you, but benefiting the whole society. You cannot want the leadership position, and yet the thing that you want to do is very minute, and it's not going to have it's not going to have a big impact in our society. No matter how small it is in our eyes, it is bigger in your eyes. So be courageous, believe in yourself, and you will be able to stand up and grab the opportunity for leadership. I can take a good example here in Kenya. Most women nowadays have taken a lot of responsibility compared to men. You find women taking bigger roles in the society. Like in Kenya today, most startups and most small companies have been started by women. And looking at this, you find you realize that women, we are so relaxed, and we are doing nothing. And the few men who are trying to challenge this, we are being eliminated from the business. And so that's why I'm saying you should believe in yourself, like like the Kenyan women I'm talking about. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Nicholas. I'm glad that we are all banding together to encourage her and every woman who is feeling like that. All right, the last person I'm going to give an opportunity is Ibrahim. Ibrahim, go ahead. Ibrahim, are you there? Ibrahim going once, going twice. All right, we are going to stop there then for the contributions from the audience. So I'm just going to give our guests an opportunity to just give us like a closing message. It really could be anything, something that you feel you just want to say as we not close the conversation forever in the world, but just as we, wind up this particular conversation today. So let me start with Sara. Please go ahead.
Hi again. Hi, everyone. And thank you also for having me, Kemi. And it was a pleasure. I really loved the discussion and my first time on Unplugged. So this is really exciting. With specific regards to women in the workplace, I think for me, again, I start from the individual and I want to encourage everyone, men and women, let's understand our history, our story. Let's understand where we're rooted from at intrinsic level and then pick it from there. Then, let's not be hard on ourselves. Let's celebrate some of the, wins, what has happened at family, community level, individual level. But then specifically, I think for women is to say, this is a struggle and it's beyond the workplace. And even for men, it's beyond the workplace, but we can use the workplace as a framing space. But it's about taking that space and holding that space, especially for women. Once you take it, hold it and hold it for somebody else to come through. And then lastly, for me, is then to pay it forward. And then, in whatever way it is, I mean, there's this formal workspaces that I occupy, but in any other, as we've tried to show here through even the participants who have been or people who've chimed in, is to say, let's look at the workplace in a holistic way, in its broadness, from rural to urban to whatever. But when we get there, let's pay it forward, because it's very important that it doesn't end with my own success.
Thank you so much. Uplifting the next woman, uplifting the woman after you. That's a beautiful and powerful message. Ange, please go ahead and give us your something as we close.
All right, thank you so much, Fiona, and everyone. This was really insightful conversation. I always like the way I leave Unplugged session after learning a lot of things. It is a journey of learning from each other. So my message to everyone who was here, after being aware that it is happening, after being aware that we haven't done much, after being aware that there is still rooms for improvement. Let's be intolerant. That was a very good word that I loved. Let's be intolerant and then try to pick it up from there, like Sara said. Let's be unapologetic and make a workplace a very better place for our women also to thrive. Let's win this, and I'm very sure if we take it and if we break the silence, if we hold our hands together, we're going to really win this, and then we will reach where we want to see and see the change that we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ange and Sara. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you coming and sharing this little space of ours. It's a space we love. We just like to come here and have conversations that are meaningful to us. So thank you so much for sharing from your experience, from your own thoughts, your own values. I think we always enrich each other from the different, angles we are coming from. And I hope that you guys, the audience, also found something of value here. Ange, if you can send those links, those links we usually send, please send them in the chat box. It's just links to all our socials, as well as we have an online, like a Google document where you can just register, let us know what you do, how to contact you, which field you're in. We found that it helps you guys find each other, just like to find people who maybe are doing something you're interested in, something like that. And also for us to find you. Sometimes we want to talk to you guys, bring you on here, talk to you about different things that are important to you, and find out about the amazing work you guys in your communities, because we've really been appreciated. Thank you so much, every single person who has taken the time to join us. We really appreciate you, and I hope that you'll be back next week. This month is Women's Month, and we're having more conversations that are women-centered, and that does not mean that we are excluding the gentlemen. We want you to be part of these conversations as well. It's important. So please join us next week. And guys, we will see you then. But we'll see you on our social media as well. Come to our social media and we can hang out there as well. Thank you so much once again, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Kemi. Bye.
Africa. Tusonga mbele mama Afrika. Afrika. Kwa pamoja Afrika. Mwishani wonse. Bonjour. Mama. From country to country, yeah. We gotta work together. We are leaders now. Aiming higher for the better. Together. To make our nations greater. By sharing to the power. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. So you lead, I lead, we lead together. We will lead, we will lead. Let your dream be a reality. We will lead, let your dream be a reality.
Yo, listen, together we shape young men and women. We're the pillars, we're the future. Here we are, let's join together. With ability to change communities. With love, with peace. To respond to our need. To call for unity. Africa, hear me cry. Never leave me alone. As I see light in a brighter future. Let's join hands for youth and women. Let's join hands